What would you do if the rivalry of a lifetime turns into the greatest love story you never saw coming? Welcome to Happiness of Love, your daily dose of K-dramas. Get ready to fall in love with unforgettable stories. Can you tell us where are you listening from? The air crackled with tension as Lucas Park stood on the balcony of the opulent Park Imperial Hotel, looking down at the city's glittering skyline. The night was electric, filled with anticipation, yet all he could focus on was the crushing weight of his victory that afternoon. Moments ago, he had clinched a lucrative contract that Emma Choi of Choi Luxe Resorts had been fiercely vying for. The realization that he had outmaneuvered her again brought a rare, ruthless smirk to his lips, but it was soon overshadowed by the gnawing satisfaction of having bested his most relentless rival. He could almost hear her frustrated growl from across town. Emma had always been unapologetically ambitious, a force of nature who refused to accept defeat. As he straightened his tie, he recalled her fiery eyes sparking with indignation when she'd learned about his win, her determination radiating like heat from a flame. She would not take this lying down, he knew, but for now, he had bought himself a moment of triumph. Despite the buzzing excitement of the corporate gala starting below, Lucas found his thoughts consumed by the cunning and sharp-witted woman who had driven him to such lengths. He wasn't surprised when he spotted her across the room, clad in an elegant black dress, exuding both confidence and a fierce competitive spirit. They exchanged icy glares, and he could practically feel the challenge in her piercing gaze. The ground beneath them shifted dramatically when, moments later, a ripple of shock swept through the crowd as both their parents joined the celebration, arm in arm. Robert Park, Lucas's father, and Grace Choi, Emma's mother, exchanged soft, flirty smiles as they held hands, oblivious to the mortification brewing among their children. Lucas's heart plummeted when Robert declared their engagement to the entire assembly, his mind spinning with disbelief, the words echoing painfully in his ears. On the other side of the crowd, Emma's expression morphed from disbelief to outright horror, her shock mirrored in the brief flash of tears that sparkled in her eyes. Stunned and horrified, Lucas and Emma's worlds collided as they instinctively turned to each other, their rivalry reaching an unprecedented level. "You've got to be kidding me," Emma spat, raging fury mixing with embarrassment. He felt his stomach churn, the very air thickening with indignation at the thought that she could be involved in this humiliating turn of events. "As if you didn't have a hand in this," Lucas fired back, his voice a low growl, his restrained anger unmistakable. It was a tightrope walk of resentment and disbelief, with each of their brows knitted in furious concentration, neither willing to back down. Were their parents truly in love, or was this a strategic move orchestrated to gain leverage in the increasingly cutthroat hospitality industry? In the weeks that followed, the unexpected engagement catalyzed a string of awkward family gatherings, orchestrated by the elated parents under the guise of uniting the families. At every dinner, Lucas and Emma donned masks of civility, while beneath their polished facades, they fiercely plotted against the union that threatened everything they had worked for. Sneaking furtive glances at each other across the table, their minds raced with potential sabotage tactics while polite smiles graced their lips, a duplicity both thrilling and disconcerting. Each meeting became a battlefield cloaked in familial warmth, tension palpable as both children fervently schemed to dismantle their parents' happily ever after before it had even begun. In this new game of strategic sabotage, Lucas felt the thrill of the hunt pulse through him, but a creeping dread whispered that disrupting their parents' love would only lead them deeper into chaos, and closer to their own tangled hearts. Lucas and Emma, each fierce in their own right, quickly settled into a meticulous plan to thwart their parents' impending nuptials. It felt almost comical to think they would team up, but their shared goal united them in unexpected ways. Emma, with her determination and flair for theatrics, decided that the best strategy was to introduce her mother to a selection of charming bachelor friends, hoping that a handsome stranger would momentarily distract Grace from her burgeoning romance. She envisioned evenings filled with laughter and dinners of exquisite cuisine, all while fleeting glances were exchanged, signaling her mother's shifting affections. Meanwhile, Lucas, the careful strategist, took a more conservative approach. He bombarded his father with an array of cautionary tales regarding disastrous second marriages, showcasing the kind of slippery slopes he had witnessed from afar, recounting stories of friends whose lives had unraveled after their second tries at love. He felt each story flashing through his mind was an arrow aimed at the heart of romance, but each attempt crumbled in the face of his father's renewed ardor for Grace. As the days unfolded, Robert and Grace wound tighter together, their bond seemingly forged under the scrutiny of their children. "I swear they are more in love than ever," Lucas grumbled during a coffee break in his sleek office, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. Emma replied, a mischievous gleam in her eyes, as she noted how her mother glowed whenever Grace's name was mentioned. Their strategies were failing spectacularly, and soon, their parents began arranging double dates, feeling the need to bond the families under one roof. Each invitation came as a new wave of irritation, but there was little they could do but comply. One fateful evening, they found themselves seated across from one another at a lavish restaurant, beautifully draped in chandeliers and filled with enticing aromas wafting from the kitchen. It was a scene light years away from their heated boardroom exchanges. The atmosphere buzzed with muffled laughter and clinking glasses. As Robert and Grace bantered sweetly at the end of the table, Lucas and Emma's attention diverged into the bewildering territory of silent disdain and reluctant camaraderie. An unexpected misunderstanding arose when a couple at the neighboring table mistook their sharp exchange for flirtatious banter, prompting the waiter to approach with a bottle of champagne, insisting they toast to their romance. Emma rolled her eyes, a smirk dancing on her lips as Lucas declared he had never been so insulted in his life, all the while feeling a rush of warmth igniting as they exchanged playful jabs. His teasing played like music to Emma's ears, setting them off in laughter that echoed off the restaurant's walls, each chuckle pulling them closer, not just in proximity but in their shared experience. In moments, the barriers they had hastily constructed away from one another began to crumble under the warmth of a mutual understanding that felt surprisingly exhilarating. It startled them both, but beneath the surface of annoyance and rivalry, there was an undeniable attraction starting to bloom. When Lucas leaned in slightly, brushing against her hand in a moment of laughter, neither pulled away, and for a heartbeat, their eyes locked, revealing something far deeper than mere competitiveness. Emma caught her breath, feeling a rush she had never anticipated, while Lucas, momentarily transfixed, recognized how the line between rival and companion was beginning to blur. As they retreated into the safety of sarcasm, Emma could only shake her head while Lucas tried to remind himself that this wasn't part of their equation, yet it remained, lingering in the air like a sweet promise that neither dared to acknowledge. In the beautifully chaotic world they were piecing together, it seemed the real struggle wouldn't arise from outmaneuvering each other in the corporate battleground, but rather overcoming the complex maze of their intertwined feelings. The irony of their situation enveloped them, revealing that their drive to sabotage their parents had led them straight into their own emotional quagmire. Desperate to end the engagement before it snowballed into something irreversible, Lucas and Emma decided that their best course of action was to escalate their antics, resorting even to faking fights in front of their unsuspecting parents. With each staged argument, they attempted to showcase their supposed incompatibility, the dramatic performances emphasizing their rivalry to the point where it turned ludicrous. Lucas would cross his arms, narrowing his eyes at Emma as he proclaimed that her taste in luxury decor was nothing short of appalling, while she rolled her eyes dramatically in response, her voice dripping with sarcasm as she suggested that his hotels resembled sterile hospital rooms rather than five-star retreats. Yet, despite their best efforts, Robert and Grace remained utterly unfazed, their smiles only growing wider at what they assumed to be playful banter. They were convinced that the children's bickering could only signify a deeper connection brewing between the two fierce competitors. As Robert and Grace excitedly announced a spontaneous trip to a stunning seaside resort to celebrate their love, Lucas glared at Emma, realizing that this was yet another opportunity for their worlds to collide, his mind racing with plans to keep a watchful eye on his father's heart. Emma had her own designs, worn determination etched across her face as she quietly resolved to intervene at every turn during the getaway, emphasizing to herself that this was simply business she had to protect her family interests. Arriving at the luxurious resort, the salty breeze mingled with the sound of crashing waves, a picturesque setting that stood in stark contrast to the brewing tension between Lucas and Emma. They both soon learned, however, that due to an unfortunate booking mishap, they were forced to share a lavish suite at the property, the lavish decor mocking their plight with its elegance. With the vast ocean sprawled out before them, they began their inevitable negotiations over who would get the room with the better view, each claiming they deserved it on the merits of being the superior CEO. Lucas argued that as the leader of Park Imperial Hotels, a suite overlooking the horizon was essential for his strategic thinking, while Emma countered that her luxurious branding at Choi Luxe Resorts deserved nothing less than the best. This ridiculous argument only seemed to add fuel to their simmering animosity, their voices raised in the opulent room as they gestured animatedly at the breathtaking view, yet the absurdity of the situation made them both laugh against their better judgment. As twilight descended, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, they found themselves amid a sea of cocktails and laughter. On a whim, one drunken night, the atmosphere shifted as they challenged each other to a game of truth or dare, the stakes alternating between light-hearted and dangerously revealing. With an air of mischief, Lucas dared Emma to share her most embarrassing childhood memory, earning a burst of laughter as she regaled him with tales of attempting to bake cookies for her mother, only to end up with a smoky, charred disaster that sent everyone fleeing the kitchen. Emma reciprocated with her own question, daring Lucas to confess what he truly thought about their ruthless rivalry. He paused, feeling vulnerable for a moment, the booze loosened his tongue, and in a surprisingly earnest tone, he admitted that he respected Emma's ambition and tenacity, qualities he found admirable and, surprisingly, inspiring. Emma, stunned by his honesty, then found herself sharing a deeper layer of her thoughts. In an unexpected moment of vulnerability, she confided that over time, she had come to see Lucas as someone who was not as robotic and emotionally undeveloped as she once believed. Feeling a flicker of warmth invade her chest. The air thickened with unspoken truths, the realization that amidst their fierce rivalry lay a connection that neither had anticipated. The laughter echoed off the walls of their shared suite, sealing the unshakable bond between them. Back in Seoul, the vibrant city buzzed with energy as Emma Choi rolled out an aggressive marketing campaign designed to eclipse Lucas Park's latest luxury hotel project, showcasing her vision of opulence and innovation. The air crackled with competition as colorful billboards plastered the skyline, flaunting enticing images of Choi Luxe resorts, complete with glamorous shots of the exclusive amenities she had procured. Emma, standing confidently in front of a camera during a photo shoot, proclaimed that her resort wasn't just a place to stay, it was an experience, a lifestyle. Meanwhile, Lucas countered this with an exclusive celebrity endorsement that sent ripples through the industry, securing a high-profile collaboration with one of the hottest stars in the country. He relished the thought of showcasing Park Imperial hotels as the go-to for luxury amidst his rival's flashiness, often remarking to Daniel, his best friend and loyal COO, that even though Emma had pizzazz, luxury had its own silent power. Their ongoing battle didn't just stay in the boardrooms, it spilled into the streets, breaking out into a petty but amusing series of antics where they stole each other's top staff members, sabotaged press events, and engaged in a ridiculous bidding war at a charity auction. The tensions mounted, creating an almost theatrical environment that attracted whispers and gossip among their industry peers. Their parents watched from the sidelines, barely able to hide their amusement at the sophisticated children they had raised, whose business rivalry had become an unexpected source of entertainment. In a stroke of parenting wisdom, Robert Park and Grace Choi challenged their children to participate as maid of honor and best man for their upcoming wedding, playful glints in their eyes as they simultaneously encouraged unity without understanding the storm that brewing between their competitive offspring. Forced into a dance rehearsal, Lucas and Emma found themselves in an intimate setting filled with soft lights and rhythmic music, their bodies moving uncomfortably close as they begrudgingly practiced their steps together. Each turn and sway pulled them into a bubble where the world outside faded away, leaving only the palpable tension that sparked between them. The strong scent of polished wood and jasmine lingered in the air, an atmosphere electric with unspoken words. They exchanged glances laden with begrudging admiration, knowing their rivalry was supposed to be fanned with disdain, yet feeling an undeniable chemistry simmer just beneath the surface. As they twirled towards each other, their hands almost brushed, sending an unexpected thrill coursing through them. Emma, unable to quell the fluttering in her stomach, teased Lucas, saying that if he knew how to be less stiff, they might actually make it to the end of the song without stepping on each other's toes. Lucas, ever the meticulous planner, shot back that the only time he stepped wrong was when he had to deal with her incessant need to outdo him, before realizing how easily they traded barbs now, as if entrapped in a dance of their own making. The camaraderie they had forged was surprising, confusing them both as they laughed, the heartwarming sounds mingling with the echoes of the music. It was in that moment of laughter and proximity that their laughter trailed off, replaced by a charged silence that seemed to suspend time. They stood there, each aware of the tension, the near kiss hanging in the air like an unfinished symphony, neither willing to close the distance yet both yearning to leap forward. With their hearts racing and their masks slipping, they felt a thrilling, dangerous tug in the space between them, both aware that despite their scheming and rivalry, a different game had started to unfold, one involving far greater stakes than any corporate deal they had ever pursued. As the weeks rolled onward in Seoul, an unexpected shift took place within the fierce rivalry between Lucas Park and Emma Choi. Emma began to notice that there was something more to Lucas than just the cold, calculating CEO everyone knew him to be. In the hushed corners of his immaculate office and during quiet moments shared over dinner with their parents, she caught glimpses of his thoughtful nature, his mind flickering with ideas that veered far from a mere business agenda. He had a way of leaning back slightly when thinking, his fingers stroking the edge of his chin, an unconscious gesture that revealed his vulnerability, and it captivated her. Emma found herself surprisingly mesmerized by his protectiveness over his father. Lucas would listen intently, his dark eyes softening whenever Robert spoke of memories long past, showing a depth she hadn't anticipated. It wasn't just business for Lucas, it was family, and that complexity stirred a newfound respect within Emma. From the opposite end, Lucas was slowly falling for Emma's fiery spirit, noticing her passion as she animatedly talked about her latest ideas at Choi Luxe Resorts, her hands moving with contagious enthusiasm. The spark of rivalry began to weave into a delicate dance of flirtation, leaving lingering heat in the air whenever they exchanged barbs. Their usual bickering took on a playful edge, with little smirks flitting across their faces, each teasing exchange nudging them closer to a line neither had dared to cross before. At a glittering company event aimed at showcasing the elite of South Korea's hospitality industry, the atmosphere thickened with a sense of anticipation. As the two wandered among perfectly manicured guests and surrounded by sparkling chandeliers, a sudden media leak disrupted the carefully curated evening. Whispers of an alleged secret romance between Lucas and Emma began to ripple through the crowd, getting amplified like a firestorm fueled by gossip-hungry reporters craving juicy scandal. Emma's heart sank as she caught sight of a couple of well-known media figures nodding knowingly in their direction, as if they were privy to some irresistible secret hidden beneath the surface of their rivalry. She turned sharply to Lucas, suspicion igniting a flicker of anger in her chest. He narrowed his eyes and crossed his arms, mirroring her ire. The air crackled between them, thick with accusations yet unexpressed thoughts, as neither wanted to admit the frayed edges of attraction were intertwining with their competitive nature. Lucas stormed, his voice low but simmering with frustration that began to boil over, as he accused her of leaking the story to leverage their rivalry for personal gain. Emma shot back, her voice rising in anger, claiming that Lucas was the one playing the media like pawns, relishing the scandal to distract from his own inadequacies. The exchange escalated into an uproar, fueled by their clouded emotions, each barb aimed not only at the other's reputation but at the fragile walls they had built around their hearts. An onlooker's gaze could see it was more than just anger simmering between the two. As their words turned increasingly heated, there was a spark of unexpected energy, palpable energy that crackled like lightning in the summer air, igniting a tension that could no longer be ignored. The rest of the night faded into a soft haze as they stood toe-to-toe, breath mingling, both aware that their argument had veered into a territory they had not anticipated. In a moment that felt both reckless and inevitable, their lips crashed together forcefully, ignited by the heated emotions overflowing from their intense confrontation. This was not simply a kiss born of tension but a chaotic confluence of desire, confusion, and the undeniable chemistry that had grown despite their disdain. Inside the kiss, the world around them blurred. They were stationed in a chaotic universe, surrounded by their colleagues and the glitz of glamorous gowns and suits, yet this moment was purely theirs, a captivating confession carved from their desperation and years of rivalry. Every thought of spiteful competition faded away as new sensations struck her heart racing, his warmth overwhelming, and when they finally broke apart, gasping for breath, the realization of what just unfolded loomed heavy in the charged atmosphere between them. Lucas stood, momentarily stunned, staring into Emma's wide eyes. Both knew they had crossed an immeasurable line. The lingering taste of each other's breath stoked the embers of confusion and unexpected passion, igniting an uncertainty in the pit of their stomachs that could no longer be ignored. Shocked by the electricity of the kiss they shared, Lucas and Emma each tried to rationalize it as a fleeting mistake. They both continued with their lives, attempting to put on brave faces at board meetings and industry galas, yet the charged atmosphere between them was palpable. Lucas found himself distracted in meetings, his sharp focus on financial projections wavering as he caught glimpses of Emma's animated gestures and her occasional hair flips that never failed to draw his attention. Emma, on the other hand, suddenly struggled to concentrate on her laptop screen, her thoughts straying to Lucas's intense gaze and the unexpected warmth of his lips pressed against hers. It felt absurd to feel this way. They were rivals, after all, locked in an endless game of power plays in the cutthroat hospitality sector. Yet, there it was a burgeoning desire that could no longer be ignored. As their paths crossed more often, excuses to see one another sprouted like weeds in a garden. Emma would say that she needed Lucas's insight on a marketing strategy, while Lucas responded that he required her expertise on modern trends to refine his luxury offerings. Each time they were forced together, the air crackled and sizzled, vibrating with unspoken words and unfulfilled wishes. While Robert and Grace busily dove into wedding preparations, oblivious to the brewing storm between their children, Emma and Lucas felt the looming weight of expectation. With every bouquet arranged and every table set, the joy surrounding the upcoming union of their parents was a stark contrast to the turmoil within themselves. Their plans to sabotage the wedding now felt foolish in light of this emotional upheaval, and each interaction hung heavily with a blend of longing and conflict. The agreement to collaborate on a charity event for their parents' wedding reignited a sense of urgency. They met frequently to organize the details, but the once competitive banter turned into something more layered, a dance of witticisms laced with a burgeoning attraction that neither could afford to acknowledge. At one point, while sorting through potential venues, their fingers accidentally brushed, sending shivers racing down Emma's spine, and an involuntary gasp escaped her lips. Lucas, momentarily thrown, chuckled nervously, his heart unexpectedly racing as he playfully remarked on the chicness of one venue as if it mattered more than the subtle spark that lingered between them. During a particularly intimate moment, as the sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a romantic glow, Emma found herself revealing her vulnerabilities unconsciously. She spoke softly about her fears about her mother enduring even a hint of further heartbreak, the thought of her furious determination against love striking her as something more than just a business rivalry. Lucas listened intently, his demeanor softening as he sensed the weight of her concerns. He responded with surprising candor, admitting that his own independence had been both a defense mechanism and a barrier. He said that he often feared opening up because vulnerability felt like weakness, a philosophy shaped by years of cutthroat competition. Here, in this moment, they were no longer just rivals or pawns in their parents' drama, they had transformed into two souls navigating a labyrinth of emotions, both scared and exhilarated by the new realities that blossomed from the remnants of desperate rivalry. With every word spoken, every fleeting touch that sent electric shivers down their spines, Lucas and Emma realized that the lines distinguishing love from duty and rivalry from affection were blurring. Their fights were no longer about winning an argument or outmatching each other in the boardroom. They transformed into an intricate dance where every brush of skin or lingering glance held more meaning. They were standing on the precipice of something greater than competitiveness, a connection that could change the very foundation of their lives and businesses. But the question remained, could they leap into this unknown emotion together, or was their deep-rooted rivalry an insurmountable wall? The thought lingered as they continued to plan the charity event, navigating their newfound connection at each turn, feeling both the thrill of attraction and the weight of their corporate ambitions pushing down upon them. As the days turned into a whirlwind of chaotic emotions, Lucas and Emma found themselves caught in an intoxicating web of unresolved feelings that neither could ignore any longer. The tension that had simmered between them erupted one evening during a seemingly innocent discussion about their respective companies. Lucas, his brow furrowed with determination and a hint of something softer in his gaze, leaned closer to Emma, their breaths mingling in the air charged with unspoken words. He said that the timing was all wrong, but his heart disagreed, thrumming in rhythm with the magnetic pull that drew them closer. In that moment, vulnerability washed over them like a wave, and their lips collided in a kiss that spoke of longing, excitement, and a desire that had been building for far too long. The world around them faded as they surrendered to the passion, but it was fleeting. Just as quickly as it began, they pulled apart, hearts racing and minds swirling in confusion. Their blissful moment was shattered when an industry scandal erupted like a thunderclap, accusations spiraling out of control, suggesting that their apparent relationship was merely a facade concocted to manipulate business outcomes. Rumors fueled by jealousy and intrigue whispered through boardrooms, casting shadows on their reputations. Lucas, usually so composed, felt as if the ground beneath him was shifting, each murmured allegation digging deeper into his resolve. He was known for making calculated moves, and now, he found himself trapped in a situation that could bring his empire crashing down. Emma, stunned and hurt, grappled with the disillusionment of being thrust into this chaos. Confidence that once defined her now faltered under the weight of betrayal and doubt. She felt cornered, convinced that their budding romance, once promising, was nothing more than a dangerous distraction, a threat to their hard-earned success. Emma's mind raced, and she decided that the best course was to distance herself from Lucas, believing that the line separating love and business was too perilous to traverse. As the days unfolded, they both put on brave faces during meetings, maintaining professionalism while internally wrestling with betrayal and longing. Lucas sat in his office, staring at the view of the bustling city below, the vibrant lights reflecting the turmoil in his heart. He clenched his jaw, each tick of the clock serving as a relentless reminder of what he had lost. Emma, meanwhile, buried herself in work, drowning out the hurt through a series of relentless marketing campaigns aimed at overshadowing Lucas's latest hotel project. Their rivalry escalated into a bitter competition, each meeting rife with tension and unspoken words, the charged atmosphere exposing both their vulnerabilities and desires. Yet, even amid the animosity, fleeting moments of eye contact revealed that the flicker of something deeper still existed, igniting an unquenchable thirst for connection that neither could fully extinguish. As they maneuvered through meetings, events, and the growing scrutiny from their boards, their interactions felt less like professional rivalries and more like an intricate dance of emotions tangled with jealousy, longing, and confusion. Lucas stormed through the halls of Park Imperial hotels, his mind racing with memories of those stolen kisses, while Emma felt the ache of his absence echo in her heart, even as she tried to devise new campaigns to outshine him. Late at night, she'd scroll through her phone, considering reaching out, but a sense of pride and unresolved anger held her back. Meanwhile, Lucas found himself staring at an empty chair across his desk, wondering if the battle for their companies was worth sacrificing what could have been a love that would change everything. As the emotional strain reached a boiling point, a meeting was called that neither of them wanted to attend, yet both knew they had no choice. Surrounded by their respective teams, the pressure mounted, and when Emma stood up to address a rising concern about the scandal, Lucas felt a surge of protective instinct. He couldn't bear to see her vulnerability exposed and wanted to be the one to defend her. Yet, when Emma glanced his way, their gazes locked in a brief moment of mutual understanding. She was still pushing him away. Frustration bubbled beneath his skin, and the room seemed to close in around them, the silence punctuated only by the tension steeping in the air. After the meeting, it was Daniel, Lucas's loyal confidant, who confronted him, voicing concern that their carelessness had put everything they worked for at risk. Lucas, filled with a cocktail of remorse and yearning, realized that every choice, every hesitation, had led them down a path neither wanted to traverse. Emma was right, love and business seemed irreconcilable. But instead of feeling liberated, as he had imagined, Lucas felt trapped, wading through a landscape of regret and an ache for what could have been what he wanted so desperately to grasp but could hardly articulate. The distance between them felt insurmountable, and as Lucas sank into the familiar confines of his office, he couldn't shake the feeling that this might be the last time he would have a chance to fight for Emma. But in the depths of his heart, he understood that sometimes, love demands a risk the kind capable of mending the fractures within their carefully built worlds. As the wedding approached, a sense of urgency began to envelop Lucas like the cool evening air that brushed against his skin, reminding him of everything he had fought to maintain control, status, and his carefully constructed emotional barriers. He stood on the balcony of his penthouse, a city skyline shimmering before him, filled with the bright lights of possibility and yet burdened by the weight of unfulfilled desires. Lucas was a master at managing his empire, each decision meticulously calculated. But now, as he gazed out at the twinkling lights, he realized that in targeting every aspect of his life to perfection, he had unconsciously pushed aside something authentic. The love he felt for Emma was a wild card he had overlooked, too fearful to bet on something so unpredictable, so raw. Meanwhile, Emma sat in her mother's sun-filled living room, the sweet aroma of freshly bloomed flowers singing in the air, but instead of savoring the beauty of the moment, she felt a gnawing apprehension. Watching Grace float around, radiating happiness as she prepared for her wedding, Emma wrestled with her own apprehensions. She remembered how easily love could shatter and how tender hearts could bruise. Emma pondered if she had been so driven by fear, pushing Lucas away even when all her instincts told her he could be her ally in love, the one who understood her ambition and her fierce spirit. The wedding rehearsal wheeled closer, a blend of excitement and dread echoing in her heart as she thought of walking down an aisle that could have been hers. In the larger event hall adorned with soft lights and floral arrangements, her mind drifted to Lucas, each fleeting thought sparking a warmth she struggled to combat. The air buzzed with laughter and anticipation as family and friends gathered, but amidst the merriment, an undeniable tension lingered between Lucas and Emma. As they moved through the crowd, their eyes would inadvertently lock, each glance layered with unspoken words and shared memories, igniting a dance of emotions that neither could fully comprehend. They were no longer mere rivals but two souls entangled in a complexity that sought resolution, their yearning underscored by the joyous chaos of the wedding preparations around them. During a quiet moment, Lucas found himself standing alone in a corner, catching his breath, when Robert, noticing his son's distracted gaze towards Emma, approached him with a knowing smile. "Son," Robert began, a thoughtful glimmer in his eyes that spoke of years of wisdom and experience. "Love is always a risk worth taking. Don't let fear dictate your choices. Sometimes you need to gamble a little to find your happiness." Hearing this, Lucas felt the walls of his control start to crumble, and yet his heart raced at the thought of making himself vulnerable. Meanwhile, Grace, radiant in her wedding attire, turned to Emma, pulling her into an embrace that enveloped her in warmth and reassurance. "Darling, life is too short to shy away from love," she said gently, her voice a soothing melody that echoed in Emma's heart. "You must open your heart before it's too late. Don't let this moment slip away." The words resonated with Emma, stirring something deep within her that longed for connection, igniting a flutter of possibility in the depths of her certainty. As her gaze drifted back to Lucas, standing still under the glimmering lights, she felt a surge of clarity wash over her. They were two people who had fought for everything they believed in, but now faced with a choice that could reshape their futures. The time had come to confront the whirlwind of emotions between them and determine what they were truly willing to risk. As the festivities continued around them, the heart of the matter remained veiled within the tension of longing glances, shrouded beneath the laughter and joy that both embraced and eluded them. Emma and Lucas stood at the precipice of a decision that could lead them into uncharted waters of love or sink into the familiarity of rivalry. As they stole yet another glance at one another, the room filled with chatter seemed to quieten, leaving only the electric thrum of their unspoken connection lingering in the air, marking just how precarious their situation had become. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the elegantly decorated wedding venue, the atmosphere was thick with joy and anticipation. Guests mingled, laughter echoed, and the clinking of glasses filled the air as Lucas Park, standing at the far end of the beautifully adorned hall, felt a swell of conflicting emotions. There he was, the cold and calculating CEO of Park Imperial Hotels, his usual confidence now wrapped in uncertainty. His gaze traveled across the crowd, landing on Emma Choi, the bold and ambitious CEO of Choi Luxe Resorts, who stood radiant in a sleek, sophisticated dress that showcased her unconventional elegance. Despite the festive decor, adorned with cascading white flowers and glimmering fairy lights, the tension between them remained palpable, like an unsaid promise hanging in the air. With each passing moment, as the laughter escalated and the celebration unfolded, Lucas realized that this was his moment, the moment to bury their rivalry and finally acknowledge the flames of passion that had ignited between them amidst their chaotic schemes. As the newlyweds took center stage, ready to unveil their love to the world, Lucas felt an overwhelming urge to step forward. He swallowed hard, the delicate taste of the champagne he had consumed earlier still lingering on his tongue, and took a deep breath. The music faded, and with each step, he could feel the weight of 1,000 stares, their curious glances fueling his resolve. He approached the microphone, his heart thrumming wildly in his chest, but even as he stood beneath the twinkling lights, his eyes stayed locked onto Emma, whose surprise morphed into encouragement as she smiled reassuringly. He knew that the words he would speak were not just a revelation of his feelings but a declaration of everything that had brought them together, a rivalry that had turned into chemistry too magnetic to resist. With a steadying breath, he began to speak, his voice resonating confidently through the hall. He acknowledged that their fierce competition had always painted them as enemies, trapped in a relentless duel for supremacy in the luxury hospitality industry. The audience hung on his every word, their curiosity piqued. He continued, saying that while this rivalry had defined them, it was precisely this dynamic that had forged an unbreakable bond between them, a connection that defied the very throne upon which they had rested their corporate ambitions. The room fell silent, the weight of his revelation hanging in the air like delicate crystal. Lucas felt a warmth spreading through him as he saw Emma's eyes widening with emotion, and he knew he had struck a chord, one that resonated deeply not only with her but with their gathered families and friends. His sincerity struck through the pretenses, and he spoke from his heart without hesitation, revealing how their cunning battles had inadvertently led him to admire her tenacity and passion. "Emma," he said, his voice softening as he mentioned her name, "in you, I found not only a rival but someone who challenges me to be better, someone who has ignited a fire within me that I never knew existed." The guests, initially taken aback by his confession, started murmuring among themselves, their surprise quickly transforming to indulgent smiles, as they witnessed the metamorphosis of a corporate feud into something far more personal and profound. The emotions that had simmered beneath the surface for so long bubbled forth, and even as he spoke, Lucas felt his own defenses crumbling. Emma's heart raced as she stood there, her formidable facade fracturing into shards before his words. There was something electrifying in the way he had bared his soul in front of everyone. It was as if all the scheming and competing had merely built an intricate mask, one that was now discarded in the face of truth. She felt the warmth rising in her cheeks, the tension dissolving around them as she heard his heartfelt admission, "I cannot pretend any longer. Love, like business, is unpredictable and risky, but standing here, I realize that it's a risk I'm more than willing to take." Time slowed as he stepped closer, his piercing gaze locked with hers, and in that moment of vulnerability, every barrier they had placed between them shattered, revealing the undeniable attraction that had blossomed from their rivalry. With trembling hands, she instinctively reached for him, the familiar spark igniting once again. The room buzzed with anticipation as their hearts synchronized in an unspoken agreement. They were done pretending. Lucas leaned closer, and the world faded away, his focus shifting solely to Emma, his rival turned love, the one who had seen through the intricacies of his carefully constructed walls. When their lips finally met, it wasn't just a kiss, it was a collision of hearts and souls, a manifestation of everything they had been running from and toward all at once. Gasps and cheers filled the air, the entire assembly taken aback by this unexpected turn, yet exhilarated by the tenderness that unfolded in the midst of the chaos. Their connection, once simmering quietly beneath the surface, erupted in a dazzling display of passion that left their parents in stunned delight, all the while banishing the lingering shadows of rivalry. As they pulled away, breathless and wide-eyed, Lucas smiled down at Emma, whose lips still glimmered from their kiss. Her laughter danced through the air like music, a sound he had grown fond of amidst their bickering. It dawned on them both that love had always been the ultimate business risk, one that was worth taking, one that transcended all boundaries they once believed would keep them apart. Surrounded by loved ones, their parents watched, grinning like the matchmakers they had unconsciously become, realizing that not only had their children finally accepted each other, they were embracing the chaotic beauty that came with such unexpected emotions. In that moment, as the applause resonated through the air and the evening sky enveloped them, Lucas and Emma knew that their love story had just begun, and all that truly mattered was embracing this future together. As the months rolled by, the charming chaos of their lives continued to unfold in delightful unpredictability. Lucas and Emma had settled into a dance that was as intriguing as it was exhilarating, where their playful banter in board meetings sparked both innovation and affection. They were the power couple of the luxury hotel industry, often found in the midst of strategic debates, yet every argument ended in laughter and admiration for one another's tenacity. At a lavish industry event, adorned in their finest attire, they were the center of attention, their chemistry magnetic and undeniable. When a journalist seized the opportunity to ask who held the title of the better CEO, a knowing smile spread across Emma's lips as she confidently responded, "Ask again in 10 years, on our wedding anniversary." Lucas's deep laughter rang out, resonating through the crowd, and as he pulled her in for a kiss, the applause that followed seemed to echo their journey, one defined by rivalry that had blossomed into a collaboration of love. In that moment, the world outside blurred, and they were simply two souls intimately anchored in each other's presence, navigating the complexities of love and ambition side by side. Just as they broke apart, the atmosphere shifted with an unexpected tension aflicker in their playful world. As they gazed into each other's eyes, they sensed a curious energy, the whispers of challenges yet to surface, unseen paths longing to be explored. The thrill of their partnership, as emboldened by love, also hinted at new rivalries on the horizon, both in the business arena and beyond the corporate walls. As the night unfolded, fragments of conversation from various guests filtered in, secrets of the industry and hints of transitions on the rise, each word weaving a tapestry of opportunity and uncertainty. Emma and Lucas exchanged furtive glances, their minds racing with uncharted adventures that lay ahead, adventures hinted at by shared smiles and teasing nudges as they dreamt of where their fierce love would take them next. Suddenly, in that vibrant atmosphere filled with laughter and intoxicating possibilities, Lucas's phone buzzed with an urgent message, its content hidden from Emma's view, casting a shadow of curiosity over their joyous celebration. For a brief moment, the world felt still as they locked eyes, secrets between them of triumphs yet to unfold and challenges rising beyond the horizon. It was clear that, just as their love story had begun amid competition, the journey ahead was ripe with potential for new adventures, exciting revelations, and perhaps a few surprising twists that would test their partnership once more. Emma's smirk hinted at her unwavering confidence, but beneath it lay an undercurrent of anticipation, of a sensory knowing that life held yet more in store for them both. In that charged atmosphere of intertwined hopes and dreams, the true story of Lucas and Emma was only just beginning, one that would lead them through uncharted territory, where love and rivalry danced together, leaving the echoes of laughter and the thrill of ambition in their wake. And as the camera panned out from the glamorous setting where they stood united, the screen faded to black with the lingering promise of what was to come, feeling undeniably like the next chapter was about to unveil itself in the most unexpected of ways. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to Happiness of Love. That way, you won't miss any of our heartfelt romances. See you in the next love story.